Come with us as we visit Coulsdon Deep Air Raid Shelter. Hidden beneath the chalky hillside in Coulsdon, South London, lies an incredible piece of forgotten history. The Coulsdon Deep Air Raid Shelter, also known as the Brighton Road Deep Shelter or Surrey Deep Shelter, number 4. Its story begins during the Second World War. As a German bombing intensified across London and surrounding areas, authorities needed places where large numbers of civilians could escape the danger above. In 1941, land connected with the Cane Hill Hospital estate was approved for the construction of a deep-level public air raid shelter. The Coulsdon shelter was completed by October 1941 and was originally designed to protect around 1,500 people. But construction wasn't straightforward. As workers excavated into the hillside, they encountered areas of softer and less suitable chalk. This meant that the tunnels couldn't be extended as far as they'd originally planned, and the shelter's final capacity was reduced by around 720 people. Underground, the shelter consisted of 3 long parallel brick tunnels connected by cross passages, with 3 offset entrances leading into the hillside. Chalk and spoil removed during construction was piled around the entrances, helping provide additional protection against bomb blasts. Inside were facilities needed to accommodate hundreds of people during an air raid, including toilets, a canteen area, and a warden's office. Imagine what it must have been like in there during the war. The air raid sirens begin sounding across Coulsdon. Families leave their homes and head towards the shelter, disappearing through the entrances and deep underground. Inside, hundreds of people waiting along tunnels while aircrafts pass overhead with bombs falling across London and Surrey. Interestingly, it's unclear exactly how heavily the shelter was used by the civilians. Some accounts suggest it may have been underused because many local residents already had access to smaller domestic shelters. There are also historical accounts suggesting that the Canadian military forces later used the tunnels for storage during the war, although the surviving evidence surrounding this part of the site's history is less complete. When the war ended in 1945, Coulsdon's underground story was far from over. Rather than simply being sealed and forgotten, the tunnels eventually found a completely different purpose. During the early 1950s, they became associated with Cox, Hargreaves and Thomas, a specialist company involved in the manufacturing of precision optical equipment for astronomical telescopes. And surprisingly, an old underground air raid shelter had one major advantage for this type of work. That was its temperature. Deep beneath the hillside, conditions remained at a relatively stable temperature throughout the year. It was extremely useful when producing precision optics, when even a small change in temperature could affect its measurements. The long tunnels could also be used for testing and focusing optical equipment. So these passages, originally built to correct people from bombs, became unusual underground scientific factory. But there was a problem. The shelter was incredibly damp. Condensation affected electrical equipment and machinery, while metal components were vulnerable to corrosion. One of the strangest stories from this period involves an old refrigerator, which was reportedly modified and used as a primitive dehumidifying system to help combat the moisture. The work carried out underground was significant enough that in the 1960s, British Path Film telescope manufacturing here, giving us a rare glimpse of Coulsdon tunnels when they were still as a working industrial site. Eventually, however, the difficulties of operating in such a damp underground condition became too much, and the optical company left. Parts of the shelter were later used as a garage, a workshop, and a storage area, adding yet another chapter to its history. Over time, abandoned machinery, vehicle components, and other objects accumulated inside the tunnels. By the 1980s, entrances had all been sealed in an attempt to prevent access, but the shelter became increasingly well known among people fascinated by Britain's forgotten underground history. Today, Coulsdon's deep shelter represents much more than an abandoned set of tunnels. It has a wartime civilian refuge, a possible military storage facility, a precision optical factory, a workshop, and eventually a forgotten underground time capsule. More than 80 years after it was completed, those lined walls and passages still remain beneath Coulsdon. And that's exactly why we visit places like this, because sometimes the most incredible places of history aren't standing in front of us, they're hidden right beneath our feet. If you've enjoyed this story, please do give South Coast a follow. We do history in abandoned places and underground exploration, and let us know where you think we should explore next. Until next time, stay safe, stay spooky.